So it's just kicking back on, and then we will continue. All right, looks like it's all coming back. Cool. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a great time. It seems like most people have also filtered back in from the Choose Your Own Adventure windows. I wish I could have been everywhere all at once. It was also very cathartic to be in here with the art jam. It has been such a glorious day of becoming all together. And we are entering the home stretch. So I am delighted, excited, and honored to introduce to you all Miss Kanitha, the homeless CEO Patterson, the one and only. I'm going to give you all a little bit of a background. Just so excited also, Miss Kanitha, that you're in Nashville. I'm from Nashville. That's where my mama is. That's where my sisters are. So I can't wait to hang out with you next time I'm back at home in the real life 3D. Okay, so I'm really excited about what you're going to share. So Miss Kanitha is going to share about the Cinderella Revolution, regenerating power from lived expertise. And she's a wife, a mom, a glamour, aka homeless CEO, storyteller of poverty and homelessness, and is a systems change advocate. And she's going to be sharing a healing-centered exploration of lived expertise as regenerative power, transforming survival into design science through her Cinderella framework to restore agency, identity, and community liberation. So without further ado, Unicorn, the floor is yours.
Hi there, everybody. Thank you so much, Roxy. This screen is so bright with fellow lighthouses and fellow unicorns in the room. I love that horse. I wanted to like reach through the screen and grab it. So, and it's kind of funny because I heard so much of my story through all the other stories that have been on all day. I heard someone say glass slipper earlier, and of course, the horse. So once I share my screen, bear with me. This is like my first time doing this part with sharing the screen, right? But we're gonna do this. Um,
Ooh,
get
it
back
looks
to the first one.
good.
Look, I'm learning. And you know what? The Design Science Studio has been teaching me so much. This is the second cohort 4 that I'm in. Talk about synchronicities. I think somebody was talking about that just a second ago. And butterflies have been a huge theme of the other cohort that I'm in, the National Low Income Housing Coalition. And you'll hear more about that throughout my presentation. But I'm Miss Kanitha, the homeless CEO, and that means the storyteller of poverty and homelessness. And I have a little meme up here that says Sunday, so sanctify the day. And then understand his grace, nourish your soul, draw for strength from him, adore his majesty, and yield in worship. I'm a natural born worshiper. So that's very dear to me. So here, and I'm gonna move this over. Uh, talking about breaking
Yes,
Cinderella
sir. Nope, I'm
systems.
doing this.
I'm trying to move this out the way. But I'm talking about over here with the pictures, cosmic frequency and connections. Think for yourself. You are royalty and you are a unique blueprint. So, on this journey, I'm exploring how the enhanced asset of lived expertise, especially the experience of being unhoused, becomes a regenerative force when it is honored as knowledge, not pathology. My work reframes survival as a design science, and my Cinderella framework helps people recognize the moment they stop internalizing harm and start reclaiming sovereignty. We are the missing data to all interconnected things to heal housing because it in itself is healthcare. And so our vision is to fill in all voids by pollination. And I talked a little bit about that, like butterflies, bees, the things that are in nature that we need. And we see this world not treating it so kind right now, let's say. A renaissance practice, excuse me, for systems change, narrative restoration, and community sovereignty. My work through innovative job solutions emerges from the intersection of lived expertise, narrative, and restoration, and systems transformation. As someone who has survived homelessness and real-time systemic erasure, I learned to read systems the way others read blueprints, and I became fluent in the pattern of harm and architecture of exclusion, the emotional labor required to navigate institutions that benefit from invisibility. That fluency is now the foundation of a regenerative design practice that treats lived expertise as intelligence, not a deficit nor a charity. With Design Science Studio, I began naming this intelligence for what it truly is. And that's a regenerative, relational, and deeply architectural. It's the ability to see where systems leak dignity, where governance fails, and where communities are forced to survive conditions they never created. My Cinderella Revolution framework reframes the classic story as a systems impact narrative. A woman surviving governance failure, unpaid labor, myself plus 30 other people, and social isolation who still maintains her identity and integrity. This metaphor has become a tool for helping people recognize their own moment of awakening. The moment they realized they were never broken, the system was. Transparency and no harm is the heartbeat of our unhoused lived expertise community. And Innovative Job Solutions is the home for this work. It is a movement. It's the architecture lab that transforms lived expertise into design intelligence and community power. Through healing centered language, cooperative models, and narrative tools, we, not me, build pathways that restore dignity and agency to people who have been system impacted. The work moves communities from extraction to regeneration, from invisibility to authorship, from survival to sovereignty. This vision is not theoretical. It is embodied. It is iterative. It is rooted in the belief that people who have survived the system are the ones that most equipped to redesign it. Innovative job solutions exist to make that redesign possible through story, through structure, through the collective brilliance of communities who deserve more than survival. It is a blueprint for a future where belonging is engineered, liberation is intentional, and regeneration is the standard. And so here are some of the housing system partners we work with. And those are all Nashville, Davidson County. It's the HUD Continuum of Care Homeless Planning Council. We just historically got moved over from the Homeless Planning Council to general membership on the 19th. And we do a lot of arts and healing. We have a lot of artists in our conglomerate. Looking at all the art, it really inspires me because we have a homeless choir and we want to see 10 artists per state nationally, and we would love to see some global artists. I have a virtual reality where you could go and look here in this QR code. Is how you find everything for us. And I'll also love to share this presentation so you could see the other people we're working with. But we're tied into the community as the heartbeat of unhoused people, and no one can help navigate the way that we can. That system that wouldn't exist without us. So I want to say, and that's for, like I said, the QR code is for Morning Coffee Artist Virtual Reality Online Gallery, and how to contact myself as well. And thank you. And again, the storyteller of poverty and homelessness. And I'm the home of the Homeless CEO karaoke grams. Those are a type of a Hallmark card that you can get. It's a telegram that I will send if you choose whatever song you would like. So thank you.
Hooray.
That was amazing. Eve, you're muted, by the way.
Amazing. I have a lot of admiration for you. I think you are quite the badass in how you are honoring your story and allowing it, like the hard parts of it and the good parts of it, to empower you. It's very beautiful. I really admire that in you. Thank you so much for sharing. And of course, unicorns. I was so excited when I saw that on the second slide. I think up next we're gonna have George. Am I right on that?
I
Yep. Hi,
am here
George.
to introduce
Yes, you are.
our next headliner. Where is she? Coming up next, there she is. Everyone give a warm welcome to Maria Teresa, aka Cyborg Baby Mama. She's a mixed Black, Indigenous, Chicanx American artist, technologist, and arborista, and from South Central LA. And she's here to tell us about how we might become water people.
Thank you. Thank you, George, for that.
Thank you for being here.
I just shared a survey in the chat. So if you hear things or if you're curious about some of the questions that I'm raising, feel free to respond in the chat or through the small Mentimeter survey. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, looks great.
Okay, awesome. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Maria Teresa. I'm an artographist, means I'm an artist, technologist, and researcher. And across those roles, I work on one question, which is how do we create safety for people, communities, and the environment? And sometimes that means working through art or working in design or working through research. And I don't see them as different practices. Mostly, I see them as tools for the same kind of responsibility. Um, I my part of my origin or into this project, I recently graduated from UC Berkeley with a master's in design engineering last year, and through my studies, I engaged a community in Oakland through an organization called Ninth Root, where we were looking at shoreline erosion, and it made me wonder a lot about the way that institutions and communities are really siloed when we think about environmental change. And one of the questions that the organization I was working with, Ninth Root, was asking was like, how do we get community more involved in environmental support and for climate change? And we walked a lot of East Oakland, West Oakland, and a lot of the folks were like, this is a city's problem. It's not my problem. And I think part of my interest in in like their responses was like, I as a student have the spaciousness to do that. It's unfair for us to project what we imagine all communities should be caring about the environment, because that's not the reality. They are worrying about bills, they're worrying about food. I can see why the dependence on the institution might be there, because they're worried about tomorrow, right? They're worried about right now, not just tomorrow. Um, yeah. And so the concern that came up from that was realizing that a lot of California's coast is having steep impact right now, and the National Oceanic Atmospheric NOAA, I don't know why I forget the acronym, but they, in the 2023 studies, found that 85% of California is experiencing erosion, shoreline erosion. And I became really concerned with this. And and entire sections of the shoreline are losing land every year. And when we talk about erosion, we often see it as like a distant climate issue, melting ice caps and global warming. But on the ground, it looks very specific. It means like parks disappearing, which was something that was happening in East Oakland. Beaches are closing, or large swaths of flooding and happening across California. And so that investigation also made me think about how why some coastlines are stable and while others collapse. And um I got to see like who are the people that are experiencing it firsthand. And a lot of these are communities that are closer to ports or working near the waterfronts, people who use the beaches as a recreational activity. um and yeah, so it really, the concern and then the people who are impacted just started to really I tried to wrap my head around what are some of the things that I could do. um And what I've learned is that coastlines are stabilized by living systems, right? And so that you think about our wetlands, our kelp forests, and our shellfish reefs act as natural breakwaters. But when those systems die, the shoreline is no longer protected. And one of the main reasons the water dies is because of runoff from the ports or a different industrial activity. So pollution doesn't directly erode the shoreline, but it's part of the linkage in it. And it removes the natural differences of that prevent erosion. And so environmental damage is not just a chemical problem, but it's a loss of ecological infrastructure. Um, and if environmental protection depended on infrastructure, why is that infrastructure so invisible to the people who live there? And right now it's very centralized, right? It's wastewater facilities, agencies, ports, and regulators that are like this at the center of it. But the communities are really the most affected by the environmental risk and usually have little to no participation in mitigation. So the design question that came from this was like, what if what if protection could be participatory and not hidden in a plant, but really embedded in a community activity? And so these questions led to this idea of the project, which would be like a remediation kind of play structure. I imagine uh like a Earth Day birthday party, where an actual like jumper is acting as a remediation kind of structure where the play and joy becomes the technology. And it removes those like very big bureaucratic barriers between the people and the need for protection. Yeah, children can play on it, families can gather around it, but inside are filtration or bioremediation materials designed to remove contaminants from the near shore and to support conditions for ecological recovery. Um, so we'd be testing a different kind of environmental protection, which would be more of a community operated environmental interface. And it's a place where environmental care becomes visible in a shared civic activity instead of an invisible bureaucratic process. So with that, I ask us, like, how do we I also got the privilege to go to New Orleans last year, and I met Monique Verdun, who is also doing water work in Louisiana, is a member of the Huma tribe. And she asked us this question of like, as the water rises and we try to, like for them, it's creating dams or creating structures that prevent the water from coming inland. How do we reverse that kind of relationship? So how do we become more of water people? Yeah, that's pretty much that's the end. Thank you for hearing. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them and thoughts.
Thank you, Maria Teresa. So, boy, you've really touched my heart. This was unexpected. I grew up on those beaches. Over the last 60, 70 years, I've watched them change quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel it deeply as a water person from those lands. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. It's deep.
Yeah.
Cool.
And also UC Berkeley's in the bulb, like there's an article that LA Times recently published about there being like nuclear waste that came from the UC Berkeley facility. So, I as an alum, I'm like, we have to do something. So the whole California coast is impacted from the Bay to San Pedro here too. I'm in South LA, so San Pedro is like our port kind of in relation to Oakland, where my family, my children go and play in these waters that are contaminated. And so this is another kind of inspiration to the work.
Well, you're an inspiration to the work for taking it on. It's a big role, but I know there are others out there that I'm sure you're working with, and there's many people that are concerned about how this is rolling forward.
This is kind of like an idea that was floating in my head. This is my first time really presenting it out. Um, but I'd be happy to open to folks jumping on board, sharing any knowledge or resources that they think might be beneficial. But thank you.
Well, it was a beautiful presentation on top of it. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Bless.
Maria Teresa, I wanted to speak up because this work that you're initiating has been the focus of my research for a very long time. And I actually created a presentation on Miro for a different thing, specifically on this topic that has examples of other artists who have done ecological restoration through public art projects, including these coastline restoration projects. So I'm going to drop it in the chat because I think you would really love some of the resources that I share in that presentation, and I also include some of the essays that I've written on this topic, doing research on land art for ecological restoration.
Oh, thank you.
Marianne.
I love your work, Maria Teresa, and I put a link in a chat to a meeting that's happening on March 5th of the Bay Development or Bay Conservation and Development Commission, and they're working on sea level rise planning, and they have a focus on pollution that gets churned up as the sea level changes, and interaction between the salt water and fresh water and flooding, uphill flooding and things like that. But I think they'd be really interested in your work and your ideas, and hopefully you can connect with them.
Oh, thank you.
That would include Oakland. That's a whole Bay Area.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mariana. And I love that you jumped in to share a little bit about your work, because I have the pleasure of introducing you right now. And what a lovely, beautiful transition. So yeah, thank you. So up next, we've got Yadira. Yaya. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your last name. Capaz is a research-based artist, experienced designer, and storyteller, bridging wellness with climate action to heal the future through workshops, retreats, conferences, and festivals. And today we get to combine play, art, and action for the Everglades and Biscayne Bay. The Council of All Beings meets civil action, meets sacred geometry. So everybody, are we all in?
Thank you so much for that introduction, Jennifer, and big love to Maria Teresa. Hearing your work really made me feel like, oh, there's my sister on the West Coast holding it down, similar vision. So I'm just so thrilled to be just adding more sparkles to that work. So I'll share my presentation on impact mandalas. Give me 1 second. So hello, everyone. My presentation today is called Prototyping Impact Mandalas, Collaborative Art Action for Ecosystem Regeneration. I am a very action-oriented person in the movement for regeneration. I have been on a longer journey of ancestral healing and remembrance, of Afrofuturism, and understanding Earth systems, and I keep landing back to the importance of action. And I love being near the end of our presentations today, because really by the end of so much inspiration and so much mindset shifts that we get to do through learning through each other's work, the hope is that we take some action, right? Like things don't only live in the realm of ideas, but they concretize into meaningful difference in choices that we make. So that's the project that I'm working on right now, and I've been developing it for the past 2 years, and it's really taken this shape now through this incubator project. So the impact mandalas emerge out of a realization that I am a daughter of two waters. In Spanish, there's a saying, hija de dos aguas, and in my culture, I'm Cuban, I'm Afro-Cuban. I grew up with a lot of Nigerian Yoruba diasporic faiths that made their way to Cuba. There is this saying that some of the priestesses of Oshun are also priestesses of Yamayab. So there are priestesses of the goddesses of the river and of the ocean. And it's been by embracing this mythological identity that I grew up with as a child and these oracular readings in my family, that I've been able to understand my interest in ecology and my purpose and mission in my creative work. So I live in South Florida now. I'm an immigrant from Cuba to the United States. I live in Miami, and part of understanding my identity as an immigrant has been to reconnect with the land, reconnect with my indigenous ancestry, and refamiliarize myself with where I am. So that being the Everglades, which is a unique ecosystem here in South Florida that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, and also Biscayne Bay, which is one of the last remaining coral reef ecosystems, that is one of the largest ones from Miami to the Keys, which is being heavily impacted by climate change. Today, I'm not going to go into the depth of my research around environmental art, social practice, but I've written like 5 different essays on this topic. I'm a big fan of many artists who do the kind of socially engaged work that I do. I really believe that art has the potential to bring people together to create community rituals and to build community and culture by bringing people together to collaborate. So that this is the kind of project that this work embodies, and it's born out of a long research practice into social practice art. So what is an impact mandala? Right, so a mandala is traditionally considered like a Tibetan mandala, which is a cosmovision of how the world works. We often think of mandalas like perhaps radial symmetry in the West. So playing with this idea of the mandala and land art, making earth mandalas, I started hosting quite a couple of different earth mandala workshops with botanical gardens. And I've been reshaping them into this impact mandala concept. So the impact mandala has 3 phases. First, we empathize with a being from the ecosystem. Second, we take an action for the regeneration of the ecosystem on behalf of that being. And third is you add your piece to the collaborative artwork of the impact mandala created by us taking action now. So we create impact mandalas together in a specific moment in time. And it's a way to replace what would be like perhaps a card game or a workshop that might be just for entertainment or personal growth, with the purpose of ecological restoration. Like, hey, let's all hang out and everyone takes ecological actions together right now. Like what a wonderful use of time, right? To not just talk about the things that we believe in, but do them, or bring people into the fold and make activist actions fun. So that's the concept of these impact mandalas. And they take two different shapes. I'm developing them through my time here in the cohort. So one is bioregional workshops. I'll be developing an impact mandala specifically to the Everglades in March in their next salon, and one in April in the salon in April for Biscayne Bay. And then if I get a chance to visit San Francisco in July, I'll do one for the San Francisco Bay. And then I am also prototyping like a planetary card deck. So that while the bioregional workshops are really cool because we can get specific about the kinds of eco actions that we can take, the planetary card deck can be more of like a social and universal system for connecting with nature and taking eco actions regardless of whatever ecosystem you're in. And so what we're doing today is we're doing a little bit of a prototype of that card deck or of this concept. It took quite a long time to actually come up with this concept and arrive to this. And then I wanted to actually like debut the planetary card deck in May, which sounds really ambitious. So it might be like a prototype of the card deck really in May, and then having a lot of refinement. So that's the structure of the impact mandalas. Before I dive into us creating one together, or perhaps walking through the simple steps, I want to talk a little bit more about my inspiration. So there is a methodology called participatory action research, which is what a lot of my work is based. So rather than me doing all of the thinking for people, it's like people do the research and thinking for themselves and then come back to give the feedback to the collective. And so they have a stronger sense of project ownership. And that's definitely how I envision the bioregional workshops. Like I might have some specific actions that I will do research to recommend to people, but the actions would be naturally arising by the people who are present and their understanding of the ecosystem and the activist networks in that ecosystem. I have another project called the Impact Plug, which I see this project of my embodiment as Hija de dos Aguas, daughter of two waters, connecting with my Impact Plug project, where I curate list of opportunities that people can have to make an impact in their community. And so it's direct action, getting people involved. And so I see this work as a merger of these two already existing projects that I have. And then I want to give credit where credit is due. Like Joanna Macy is a beacon in my work. I love facilitation, and Joanna Macy's workshops, especially around processing collective grief and telling a story about our world being at a turning point, are a big impact on my work. And I especially love her Council of All Beings workshop, which is inspired by Indigenous practices of interrelatedness. There is a desire for me to begin the impact mandalas with empathy for something that is part of the more than human world, as I call it. So not just humans wanting to protect the environment for humans' sake, but humans doing an action for the environment for the sake of an animal, a plant, or an elemental, like a body of water. To me, it seems like a very important part of the puzzle of an ecological consciousness and an expansion of our empathetic values and also of our identity, or our Gaian identity. I'm also really inspired by community bioblitz practices, which are very common and for biological research, where people get together and they survey like what are all the plants and animals in a community to get a sense of the living ecosystem. This also would support people in having an experience of deep ecology and deepening their relatedness to their local space. So a lot of these workshops, the bioregional workshops, would be place-based. Like we would go to the Everglades to do the impact mandala there. We will go to Biscayne Bay to do the impact mandala there as part of a site-specific place-based learning and participatory action research. I'm also part of Miami-Dade College Earth Ethics Institute, and one of our tools in change-making education is something called the Civic Action Scorecard Impact. So we're really interested in how do we create a culture of change makers through action? How do we incentivize or gamify people like doing something that's outside of their comfort zone, or taking an action that they might not have otherwise had if it wasn't, on this list of ways that they can make a difference, either by learning or doing different ecological actions. But that civic action scorecard also includes wellness, also includes democracy and engagement, social entrepreneurship, things like that. So I was really inspired by this codification of change-making action. And then, of course, I'm really inspired, and really this is the origin of my practice, is ancestral earth rituals like Yoruba plantings, permaculture, hugelkultur beds, which come from other indigenous practices, and the Quechua despacho ceremonies, which are all earth-based rituals where people take materials and place them on the land in order to nurture or feed the soil. And it is both like a scientific method of fertilizing the soil or creating a richness, but it's also a spiritual conversation with the earth, and it's a form of prayer. Hence why the spiritual dimension of the mandala is so important to this piece, because we could just get together and take action, but the mandalas add a layer of ritual, and even like a fantasy or magic component that I think has an important role to play in how we heal our relationship with nature. And then, of course, sacred geometry, cymatics, Tibetan mandalas are, of course, part of the visual universe of these mandalas. And I will, openly admit that that's actually my weakness, and something I'm seeking support in, with from someone who actually has done a lot more visual research into sacred geometry art. And I know that there's a lot of incredible people here in the Design Science Studio who would be great co-conspirators in the design. So I'm definitely hoping to hear from you. So I'll continue on to the different sections. I originally conceived of this workshop where we would perhaps do it together. I'm not sure if the time will allow. I know I only have 10 minutes, but I do want to emphasize again, and that action is a missing piece in so much of the work that we do. We spend a lot of time theorizing and creating the mindset, writing the poetry, creating the vision, but when does the thinking eventually make its way to tangible regeneration? And I can say that also with my work, as I've been developing this piece over the past couple of years, I've been doing this piece in pieces, right? So in September 2024, I hosted a Council of All Beings workshop at the Everglades Influx Conference hosted by the I Love the Everglades movement. And you can see a cute photo of everyone with the mask that they made based on a meditation to connect to a being from the ecosystem. And then we all were in a circle and spoke. So like we did a little bit of a theater piece, speaking from the perspective of that creature. And then on the right, I have a photo of a mandala workshop I hosted with the Kampong, which is an international tropical botanic garden with one of the sites in Miami. And it was everyone getting together and actually making these earth mandalas and cultivating this practice of relating to the land by understanding how to talk to plants and harvest ethically, and then create these beautiful offerings with an intention. So each mandala has a prayer, an intention, or an action as a commitment that people will make for the environment. And so action is the missing piece. And so we'll repeat, the 3 phases, where step 1 is empathize with the more than human world. So if we did have enough time, I would be guiding us through a meditation to locate yourself in your nearest ecosystem and find a being from that ecosystem to guide your service. So perhaps, you're locating yourself in the Everglades, you might want to connect to the alligator, for example. And so you want to think like, well, how can I be of service to this being? What is the role of this being in the ecosystem? And how can I choose an action that will be of benefit to this being? And of course, everything is interconnected. When you try to help the alligator, you're going to end up helping the bigger ecosystem, especially alligators, because they're so interconnected in the bigger ecology of South Florida. But this gesture of expanding our imagination, our empathy to the more than human world is just so crucial, as opposed to building from ego or like our own personal stories of like, we have to act a certain way because of this particular story about ourselves, but to actually empathize with other beings and act from a place of service, I think is an important orientation. And then we would take an action. So this is where the card deck would have a lot of specificity, and that's something that I'm going to develop in the upcoming workshops in March and April, where I'm going to get very specific about what actions people can take for the Everglades or Biscayne Bay, because this is something I actually want to do with my students. I teach university students, and I frequently take them to visit Everglades National Park and Biscayne National Park. So what if we get together and actually use some of our time together to do these activities? So our actions, our prayers is a big core belief of mine. I'm a big, like, walk your talk, do what you believe in person. So it would be partially like a list of actions that people can take if they can't come up with any, but some of them they might, already be naturally arising. And so they are very grounded actions, like signing up a specific petition, submitting a public comment about a legislation, picking up pollution, learning to report wounded wildlife, planting native plants, regulating together in nature, or donating to a local advocacy organization. So very much grounded action.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to let you know that we're getting really close to time. So I'm going to have to ask you to wrap it up, please, for us this time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I only have one more slide, so we're perfect timing. So the third one is to let's celebrate our impact with beauty. So after taking your action, you go and you contribute to the bigger mandala. This is the part that I'm still workshopping. And like I mentioned, I definitely need help. I would love some collaborators on geometric designs. There are online mandala generators like mandalagaba.com where people can make online mandalas. I've been working mostly with the in-person workshops, so Earth Mandalas has been the way to go for me. There's ways to design those mandalas so that they can, for example, take away invasive species or trash, or to plant specific seeds or use biodegradable paper that has seeds in it. So there's a lot of ideas that I'm still trying to design for in this third step, depending on which side of the workshop it's in. But I wanted to close with this call for help, seeking a collaborator for geometric design. And I know the person who's presenting right after me is someone who works with geometric design. So thank you, curator fairies of the Salon. I'm really excited to see their work. Thank you so much. And I hope this was inspiring to you and helped you connect some dots around action-based service and learning.
And Ari said he's happy to chat with you about sacred geometry designs in the chat. So you got #1 stunner.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
I was just about to say that. That is a really lovely connection. I would love to see collaboration with Ari in this work. And yes, Roxy and the serendipity goddess of getting our next speaker to speak about golden helixes. So yes, so very grateful for your talk, Yaya. I'm looking forward to seeing everything as it blossoms. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up we have Rex, who is a physicist, nuclear engineer, and systems mystic, imagining regenerative tech in symbiosis with life. She works at the intersection of science, pattern seeing, and soulful innovation. Today, she'll be sharing about her project, a geometry-first magnetic system using phylotactic structure to guide and sustain patterned motion without confinement. Welcome, Rex.
Hi, thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, can you see it okay?
It's loading. Yep, there it is. You might want to try, if it does a funny thing, turning off your video just while you're talking again.
Can you turn mine off for me again, Roxy? I'm sorry, I don't see how to do it now that I'm sharing my screen. Oh,
Yeah,
there it is.
I got
it. Okay, so I will just start by saying that energy solutions are one of my primary heart vectors. So you may have noticed that this is my second project about energy solutions. This is something that I have toyed with off and on over time and picked up and set back down. Golden helix Fibonacci dynamics. So the goal of this is to create a standalone handheld energy source using patterns that we see really commonly in nature, and really using the genius and efficiency that's present in biomimicry already. Some of the stops that we're going to make along the way are, we're going to talk about what a Fibonacci sequence is, touch on a double helix. Because we're talking about energy, I also want to just talk about what entropy, which is and isn't, can be a tough concept sort of grok, but it often comes up when we're talking about creating energy. And I just want to clarify that that no physics is harmed in the making of this project, and that laws of thermodynamics are also not crossed. Okay, so probably lots of us know, but in case it's unfamiliar, let's just talk briefly about what a Fibonacci sequence is. This is a pattern that shows up really commonly in nature. And I don't know if you can see my mouse on here or not, but if we were to draw, you can see that up in the top right, there's the golden helix. I'm sorry, this is the golden ratio is what it's called. And if you were to mathematically design, or if you were to mathematically describe what's happening inside of this, you could draw it out on a piece of graph paper. And that's what this yellow square is here. It's sort of breaking down for you what the pattern in the Fibonacci sequence is. You can see here that we have numbers that are connected to it, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc. So if you look at the squares on the graph paper, you can see that there is a square of 1. And now next to it is another 1. And if we add these two together and turn 90 degrees and make a square, that would be a 2 right here. And if we add the 1 and the 2 together and turn 90 degrees and make a square, that would be a square the size 3 by 3. And if we were to add a 3 and a 5 together, that's 8. And if we turn 90 degrees and draw a square that size, it's an 8 by 8. And so this is a pattern that pretty much governs spiral arrangements in nature. And it has some efficiency inside of it. It has efficiency specifically about growth. So we see Fibonacci patterns in a lot of places in nature. We can see them in seeds, pine cones, the petals on flowers. We can even see them in storms and in galaxies. So briefly, we're going to talk also about what's a double helix. In a few minutes, I'll tie all these things together to the golden helix to make some sense of where we're going in this project. So double helix is, ultimately it's a spiral with 2 strands that are around a shared central axis. And a lot of us are familiar with the double helix inside of DNA, but it also shows up in other places that can benefit from symmetry and balanced forces, like collagen or climbing vines. It even shows up in plasma physics. So, and as I promised, we're going to touch really briefly on entropy as well. This is sort of a tricky concept, but it's an important concept for this project. Entropy, this is the equation for entropy. And aside from it being a very sexy equation, we have over here on the left, this, you can see some dots that are basically, if we compact a lot of microscopic components, there's not a lot of configurations. And if we spread those micro components out, there become many configurations. So to give a different view of this, I made this sign or this slide for my Bucky friends as an example that entropy is a measure of how many microscopic configurations correspond to a system's macroscopic state. So you could imagine that these triangles are in a specific size, there's not a lot of configurations that would make this dome. But if we were to take all those triangles and lay them out, there's a lot of configurations that can make that. Although I do want to be a little bit careful and just make certain that I say what entropy is not. It's not a destructive agent or a preference for chaos. It's a way to measure possible configurations. Now, I know it seems like all of these things, what do they all have to do with one another? Why are we talking about these three different ideas? And, to sort of tie them together, I'll first say these forms, a double helix and Fibonacci spirals, they show up in nature and solve specific problems for us. They, double helix is great for balancing opposing forces. It has a lot of efficiency for minimal material and maximum strength. It's got stability under stress and rotation. And you'll see on the right, the Fibonacci is a great example of how we can organize things for growth when we want expansion without crowding, when we want optimization that's best fit within constraints, and harmony that's proportional to coherence. So ultimately, these two patterns, they solve a lot of the same problems: stability, efficiency, growth, and energy optimization. So this is why I'm toying with these ideas for biomimicry design. The proposed structure for the golden helix is essentially, I want to 3D print something that is in the form of a cone in the Fibonacci sequence with a double helix inside. The exterior of the Fibonacci inspired cone will have magnets inside of it, and the double helix will have magnets in certain positions along the way. So what's that look like in reality? I'm going to 3D print these shapes and attempt to make the double helix in the interior rotate. If we can have rotation inside of a system, we can create energy. So really quickly, just going to scoot back to entropy really for a moment and clarify that we did say that it's a measure of how many microscopic configurations can fit into a system's macroscopic state. So entropy it does determine that the gradients dissipate. I know it's kind of a wordy thing, but geometry determines how gradients dissipate. And so my hypothesis is this, that the geometry of this system will define a constrained configuration space. And within that space, magnetic elements explore multiple microscopic arrangements governed by their interaction energies. And this is existing now in, pretty preliminary stages. I have different times in my life picked this project up and set it down. And so I'm excited to be able to work on this project through DSS and have a physical thing that we can touch and hopefully play with in the very near future. Thank you.
Beautiful presentation, Rex. Thank you so much. And I thought I spotted on that 3D printer, it did look a bit like a pineapple too. So could be quite a powerful pineapple.
That's right.
All right, Regenaissance family. Now it's time to celebrate the people who made it possible. Let's give a huge, thunderous thank you to the Design Science Studio squad who built the container, ran the rails, and made Becoming the Regenaissance 2026 real. Please welcome the team, Roxy Shohade, Eve Rose, Jennifer Bliss Alberts, Mark Smith, and Amanda Sage.
Yep, 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 yep. You magnificent
You're the
humans.
sweetest. Oh wait, we gotta get Mark. I think we even have a wild Ari that appeared in the chat. Let's see.
Ari's so wild.
Oh, there he is. Nice.
Yeah, there's wild man.
We did it.
What an amazing thing.
Wow.
Thank you, beautiful humans, for your incredible work.
Thank you all so much. I have some closing slides, and instead of opening them, I closed them. I'm being a little slow.
You close the closing slides.
They were closing slides.
That's how close they are. You know, I'm getting on a plane in like very soon, and I haven't packed. So I'm also kind of like,
Yeah.
go to Costa Rica for 10
definitely.
days.
Yeah.
That's
Can I
okay.
say a few words? Wait, Roxy, can I say a few words?
Yeah.
Very quick, I
Say as
promise.
many words as you want.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who participated in today. It's definitely, it lights the fire for all the work that it takes to run this kind of program. But I am so deeply proud of each of you for presenting and what you are doing in this world. It's so meaningful. And whenever I'm like so tired after being on the computer for like, I don't even want to even mention how many hours, it's good to be able to come to these gatherings and like know that it's worth it. Like it is so, you guys are amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Roxy. I just had to say that.
No, this is yes, not no. Yes, that is exactly what this time is for us to just gush and love and celebrate. And I'll say that I couldn't agree more. This sometimes we get into those moments where it's feels like a lot because it is a lot. We just coordinated like 50 people to share over the course of 8 hours across the entire planet, as close as we could get to exactly what they hoped to contribute. And it pushed us to be brave and courageous. And a lot of people shared that this salon was the first time they were gathering their thoughts to share them and open for collaboration and get insights, and weaving is happening, literally live weaving is happening, but also all of the cross-pollination and collaborations that become more visible. And that's why we do it. That's why we do it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Vision Train. Also, as always, we have hosted every single salon we have ever done on the Vision Train. Choo choo.
Choo choo.
We're in tandem here because y'all can't stop. We can't stop. And so if we keep doing this dance with each other, we're just going to keep, tickling out all that juicy goodness that all of us have to give. And we got to take turns too, because we got to take naps sometimes and go to the sleeper car, and we got to go nourish ourselves. And this is a bit of a marathon. But, sometimes the greatest work comes from the times that we push ourselves and create these moments of deep dives, ceremony,
And
ritual. Thank you all.
And so many people here for the whole time, a lot of people, flow in and out, but to see the number of participants here watching and online to, be so high the whole day is beautiful. Well, thanks for hanging in with us.
I was logged in all day. I'm here for the end, though. Good job, guys. I caught some great talks earlier today and this evening, and there's some I got to get the replay. Anyway, here, I'll even turn the camera on.
Well, Harlan, you better stick around for the dance party.
Harlan. How about that drum and bass dance party earlier?
Oh, I am not playing any drum and bass, but I got drum and bass sets for days. Just say I was thinking about that.
That was great. I love drum and bass. I won't lie.
Oh yeah.
I'm here for it.
I had so much going on today. I did catch a few things earlier and this evening, but I really just definitely got to get the replay. So good job, and it was cool to be here at the very end. Choo choo.
Choo choo. Harlan also has been with the Design Science Studio since the very beginning, and is always, anytime we've taken a moment in the sleeper cars, like, so when are we coming back? What's the plan? Very encouraging. Always, Harlan, you're amazing. So I'm going to do our closing slides so that I can hand the train off to the team for as many chats as we want to have before Globe Weaver brings it home and we have a dance party to close it out. But I'm gonna do this closing slides first. So y'all stay up here with me, and then we will.
I've got it.
You get out of here, Harlan. I'm just kidding.
Oh, my audio's off. I was excusing myself. Bye.
Bye, love. Okay. All right. So here we are. We did it. Normally we have a mountain of partners and this salon, we decided let's just keep it in the fam. Let's not push too hard to do too much outreach. Let's just really tend to the internal space. And yet we still had more than half of the folks. I think we ended up with 125 folks registered, and more than half of them were not people who are in coheART 4. So celebrating all of the folks who joined us and the core partnership team who is always here to make these happen. So mad props to the Vision Train, the Buckminster Fuller Institute, habRitual, our creative studio that stewards the Design Science Studio, and Catalist that hosted us in this magnificent platform. And I was chatting with Vincent. We were like scheming on feedback, trying to make it an even smoother experience. So know that we're super open for that. And he's going to invite everyone to share all their presentations into Catalyst. So if you miss them or you want to go back and look at someone's slides, you can click on the experience and you can read their presentation and look at the materials that were prepared. And I mapped earlier today the folks who have published projects in coheART 4 to their session. So you're like, session, what project are they working on? What is their call to action? So exciting. And this is only the first one. So just, yeah, celebrating all the incredible partnership and community that it takes to make this thing happen. Because we did it. As Malcolm said, we tended to the future visions of what's possible. We envisioned them, we planned them, and we practiced them. And so it was really, really a diverse and brilliant tapestry of incredible people who are so courageous and devoted. And I know Bliss always has a count of how many times she cries each salon. I think she was at 12 a few hours ago. To tears, laughing, crying, all of it. It is a beacon of hope in this world, this community, and the broader community that has come together because we all know that it is possible to create a world that truly works for all of life. So super, super, super big wave of gratitude to everyone who made this experience, the Design Science Studio team, all of the volunteers, all of the presenters, all of the participants, the lands that hold us, our ancestors, our forecestors, and all of life. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And this is when I get to butt in and say, all of Roxy. Thank you.
Did you?
Well, I love y'all. I'm so grateful. I'm going to officially turn off our live stream so that we can go into our dance party, because we can't dance party this DJ set on the live stream because we'll get flagged. So for anyone who's
We're way too
watching out
cool.
there,
We're just way too cool.
get in here. I'm gonna turn it off. Yay, we did it.
We did it.